Britain's ambassador to Washington has committed the one unforgivable diplomatic sin. He has become the story. The question is not guilt by association, it's judgment, propriety, and the credibility of his office. And on each count, Lord Mandelson now fails the tests that the civil service and diplomatic service codes set: integrity, objectivity, honesty, impartiality. Leaked emails show Mandelson urging Jeffrey Epstein to fight for early release in 2008 and telling him, "Your friends stay with you and love you," while he faced charges for offences against a minor. This is not naive prehistory. It is active solidarity against conviction, and after conviction, the effect is to normalise a predator and to compromise the UK's moral standing. Reporting indicates Epstein advised on and helped broker a £1 billion sale of RBS-Sempra assets to JP Morgan in 2010, while Mandelson was business secretary only months after Epstein's release. Even if lawful, this is a glaring conflict of judgment involving a convicted offender and a taxpayer interest. The birthday book letter describing Epstein as "my best pal" with photographs from Little St. James is now an exhibit, a permanent exhibit in Washington. Diplomacy relies on soft power and character witness. The exhibit speaks for itself in every room he enters. Once an envoy is the headline, every negotiation is shadowed by it. Congressional committees already hold documentary material. The risk is asymmetric. Any further release can be used to pressure or distract a British ambassador mid-talks. This is an unacceptable hostage to fortune. The Civil Service Code binds ambassadors to put public service above personal loyalties and to base advice on evidence. Continued association with a convicted sex offender and solicitous advocacy on his behalf is incompatible with those values. This is not a criminal standard, it's a propriety standard. Sir Kim Darroch resigned in 2019 to protect the UK-US relationship after leaked criticism of a US administration. The principle was clear. When the envoy becomes the story, the office is defended by removing the distraction. The principle applies here as well. And reports that a 2002 Mandelson memo urging a Blair-Epstein meeting was withheld under an international relations exemption underline the problem. Even if the exemption is proper, the perception is of managed secrecy around the UK's most sensitive post. Perception matters in public ethics. The standards to apply: integrity, objectivity, impartiality, and honesty, and Mandelson fails all of those tests. Integrity to put public duty above personal ties, objectivity to avoid compromised sources and conflicted actors, impartiality to sustain confidence across parties and publics, honesty to provide full proactive disclosure to vetting authorities and Parliament. If any of these is materially in doubt, an ambassador's position is unsound. Here, all four are in doubt. So the defences, to anticipate those defences is to be aware. This was before we knew. Not for the 2008 emails. The conviction was known. Continued counsel and warmth were discretionary acts post fact. Due process vetted him. Well, vetting is necessary but not sufficient. Vetting cannot launder judgment. The codes are breached by appearance of compromised integrity as much as by proven illegality. He is effective with the White House. Well, effectiveness that comes stapled to permanent vulnerability is not effectiveness. It is leverage for others. He guilty by association is unfair. Well, this is not about casual acquaintance. It's about documented affection, post-conviction advocacy, and alleged commercial collaboration touching public assets. A full chronology of meetings, contacts, travel, emails, intermediaries from the first introduction to the present, with independent review and publication of a redacted timeline, is now overdue. Any official or unofficial policy or commercial advice Epstein gave Mandelson while he held ministerial office, and any impact on public assets like RBS-Sempra need to be explored and published. The completeness of disclosures to security vetting and cabinet office before the ambassadorship was established need to be assessed. Any materials held by US entities, the House Oversight Release, and any parallel repositories that could affect the ambassador's freedom to operate need to be considered and evaluated. and whether the ambassador's continued presence impairs the UK's ability to advocate for the survivors of sexual exploitation and to coordinate law enforcement cooperation credibly, that's a question that needs to be asked. There are only three outcomes that protect the post: resignation in the direct mould framed as service to the bilateral relationship, removal to uphold codes and the Nolan principles, I'll talk about those later, without prejudice to any further inquiry, or the immediate leave of absence pending a rapid judge-led review with terms of reference published up front, continuation in office without an inquiry in the face of the 2008 emails and the Best Pal record and the RBS-Sempra reporting, lowers Britain's standard for the most scrutinised diplomatic post and invites drip-feed destabilisation. Ambassadors are symbols. Washington must see probity that is unarguable. The UK's interest is not in the rehabilitation of one man's reputation, it is in the unimpeachable authority of its voice. On the facts now public, an examination is unavoidable, and the balance of prudence points to Mandelson stepping aside.